I have not been this excited about a new camera for I don't know how long. I've been wanting to buy this for the longest amount of time. Ever since this came out, I've been wanting to buy it, but I just never ever committed to it. And last week, I finally committed to buying my absolute dream camera, which we are gonna unbox and I'm gonna talk about in today's video. So let's now move into the office and talk a little bit more about what is inside. This video is sponsored by Storyblocks. When it comes down to my workflow, it's absolutely essential that I have a big library of stock footage to dip into to get little shots that fill in gaps in my projects and commercials that I can use. Storyblocks is changing the face of stock footage with more diverse and inclusive content in our library to help creators continue to tell their unique and authentic stories. Restock is their commitment to increase representation in stock media by hiring creators from marginalized communities to create content that is more reflective of the diverse world we live in. Storyblocks has an entire range of tons of different stock footage, loads of different stock assets with over 1 million different downloads, completely royalty free. If you're a solo creator or even if you're a big marketing team, they've got a subscription for you. So if you want to check it out, there is a link down in my description and you can go and see what Storyblocks has to offer. So I've been shooting with the Sony A7Siii for, I'd say around coming up to 2.5 years now. And I've tweaked pretty much every single setting with that camera to make it work the best it can for me. And let me tell you, the A7Siii for the price that you can get now is probably the best camera I think I've used. Like, that camera is an absolute workhorse. But I'm deciding I'm not selling my camera. Now I've got the Sony A7S3 right here. I want to apologize in advance for my nasally voice. I've had a flu for the past 3 days. It's not COVID, don't worry, you're not gonna get infected or contaminated by watching this video. Anyway, we're gonna open the Sony. This just makes life 10 times better considering what's been going on. Me opening cameras, or my Grail camera, is enough to cheer me up. But straight off the back, very, very similar layout to any other Sony camera that I've ever bought. Instruction manual, very boring stuff, don't really need to know about that. Sony A7S3 dedicated strap, which is pretty cool, which I will definitely be using. Charging block for the batteries. I've actually got 2 of these, so good to have a spare one. We also have the plug for the charging block, very good. A USB-C cable. I feel like the world is just like relying on USB-C cables now. It used to be micro USB, now it's USB-C. Then in here is, another Sony battery. You can never have too many of these. I now have like 6 of these, and I think that is it for the accessories. And then in here, we have the Big Daddy itself. So I'm just gonna put this on the floor. This is a big moment for me. Very, very, very excited. This is a beefy camera compared to any of the other Sonys that I used in the past, like my A7R II, my A7 III. This is a lot beefier. Best thing about this camera, it has a big HDMI port instead of a micro HDMI port. I cannot tell you the amount of times that I have broken the adapters, HDMI adapters on my A7 III. The pin always ends up bending. Very, very well done from Sony there by putting that big HDMI on. In this, we've got the headphone jack, and then here is the micro USB and the USB-C. Sorry, I forgot what it was called there. I just want to quickly talk about the SD cards that I'm going to be using. Now, if you've just spent £3,000 on a Sony A7S III, you are not going to want to fork out an extra £500 on CF Express cards. Instead, what I have found out from my good friend Con, again, is that the Lexar SD cards work very, very well. Now, you can get quite a few different ones. You can get gold ones, you can get silver ones. Now, the ones that Con told me to use and that he has been using are the 256 V60. This allows you to film in 4K 120 at 10-bit 422. So these SD cards, well, this particular SD card costs about £84, which I think is like 130 USD, correct me if I'm wrong. Anyone who's just bought the A7S III, I would really highly advise getting this SD card or maybe looking into the gold ones. I think the gold ones are V90. I will drop a link to these SD cards down in the description below so you guys can check it out for yourself, and maybe if you want to pick one up, you can. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go away and I'm going to set up this camera. I'm going to come back and talk about what I've done to it.
A few inches later.
Now you will notice straight off the start, I've actually put this camera in airplane mode because I've heard that it saves battery. On my main menu settings, the first thing I have is my audio record level. I have that sitting around 18 or 17. So right next to the focus area, I have my picture profile. Now on my Sony A7 III, I don't know why I never ever set a shortcut up for switching between picture profile, but for some reason I just never did it on my A7 III, and I thought, right, I'm gonna actually do it for this one because I'm gonna be flicking in between picture profiles quite a lot, considering this can shoot in S-Cine tone. So what I'm doing is I'm going to be flicking in between different picture profiles. So S-Cine tone and S-Log 3, maybe sometimes S-Log 2, but I don't think I'm going to be using S-Log 2 that much on this camera. The reason why I love S-Cine tone, and I love the fact that they've added S-Cine tone into this, is that when I'm filming vlogs or if I need to film something and turn it around really quickly, I don't have to spend hours going into Premiere and grading it all, which is what I used to do when using the A7 III. I used to film all my vlogs in S-Log 2 and I had to spend hours grading it, which to be fair, I don't mind grading, but it just saves a shit ton of time, let's be honest. I've set up my picture profile 1 to be S-Cine tone, and then I set up my picture profile 2 to be S-Log 3, and then my color mode I've set to S-Gamma 3 Cine. I'll most likely be using my S-Log 3 picture profile when I'm shooting commercials or client work, and I know that I'm going to want to color grade that footage. I'll use my S-Log 3. So switching between those two picture profiles, then I've got my zebra display and zebra level. I'll probably take the zebra level off and replace that with something else because I don't really think I'm going to be changing my level that much. Then underneath is my peaking display and my peaking level. Again, I'll probably change my peaking level and leave that on mid the whole time. So I don't actually need that on my main menu. This is something that obviously I'll change later down the line. My white balance, this is something that I have actually set up as a custom key, so I will change that. Next to white balance, I have steady shot. This is probably again something I'm going to change because I'm just going to leave steady shot on standard the whole time. I don't know why I would need to take that off. Then next to that, I've got prioritize record media, so I can switch in between which SD card I want to record to, so I can switch between slot 1 or slot 2. And then next to it is my exposure mode, which I leave on manual constantly. So this is probably something that I will change as well because I don't think I'll ever be shooting at shutter or aperture priority. To be honest, I always shoot everything in manual. So there's a few things that I still need to change from this main menu settings, but that wasn't really the point of this video. What I did want to get into is the custom key buttons and what I've set up for those. Jumping into my record settings. Now with my movie settings, if I'm filming a vlog or anything really quick, I will probably shoot that in 8-bit 420 because I don't want the file sizes to be absolutely massive. But if I'm shooting commercials, client work, films and stuff like that, etc., I'll most likely be using 422 10-bit, and then I'll be using 100 frames per second, or again, if I'm filming vlog, I'll use 24 frames per second. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about the custom key settings, so like my shortcuts and my custom keys for this camera. I've only set up my custom keys for video mode because I'm primarily using this camera as a video camera. I don't think I'm going to be taking photos with this. That's why I have an A7R III as my photography camera. Now, there are 6 custom buttons on the front, and then there are 2 custom buttons on the top. Now, the first custom key button, which is the control wheel, I haven't set that to anything because I just don't really ever use that as a shortcut for anything. I use that usually to turn down the ISO, which is what it's set at for the moment, which is what I think the default is. My second custom key button, which is this one right here, which says AEL, I have that set to my frame rate, so I can really quickly choose between 24 frames per second, 50 frames per second, or 100 frames per second. Following up from that, my next custom key button, and this is a feature that I didn't know that the A7S III had. This is probably one of my favorite things, which is the Gamma Display Assist, which I have set to this button right here. Now, what the Gamma Display Assist is, it is pretty much a mini LUT that goes over your footage if you're recording in log, and it basically shows you what the footage will look like with a little bit of a grade on top, a little bit of a LUT on top, so you can really nail that exposure. And that is a feature that I didn't know that the A7S III had until I watched a couple of YouTube videos. I was like, okay, that is going to be so handy for me. For my custom key 4, I believe, is my focus area. Now this is C1, which is next to the gamma display underneath the viewfinder. I don't know if you can see that there, which is this little one. Now that I have set to focus area. This is the setting that I said I needed to change in my main menu settings, because obviously I'd set that one up to be my focus area, so I can just tap that and then switch in between zone or center, which is what I explained before. So that is my shortcut for focus area, so I'll take that out of the main menu settings. Then my custom key 5, which is this one here, which is C3, I believe. Now I have that set to the AF/MF toggle selector. Now this is something that's really handy if you don't have a lens with a switch on the side where you can switch in between auto and manual focus. And then lastly, my top button, my top shortcut key, which is this one here that says C2, I have that set to ISO, so I can literally hit that C2 button, change the ISO super quickly rather than going into the main menu settings, or I can just move the scroll wheel. But either way, I'll probably change the scroll wheel to something different later down the line. But having that C2 literally right next to the record button is really quickly just to change the ISO if you need to. Like having that right there, super efficient. Another one of the features that I really love about the Sony A7S III is the recording display level. Now what this is it actually brings up a much more noticeable display when you are recording. So if, for example, I've got my screen here, usually on the A7 III or any other camera, you get a little thing here that just says recording. Whereas if you record on this, I've set it up so that I get this big red square display around my screen so that it's way more visible that I am recording. If I just flip the screen out here, you guys can see what I'm doing. So what you want to do is you want to go onto the menu, and then you want to go down to the first column, which is the red icons. Then what you want to do, you want to go all the way down to the bottom until you hit shooting display, and then you want to go onto emphasize display during recording, and you want to hit on. So that is how you turn on that little feature so that you get that nice red square whenever time you're filming. So that is all of the different settings that I've set up for my A7S III. I'm sorry if this was quite a long video, but I thought it may help some of you out. For anyone else who wants to know about the A7S III or wants to kind of take inspiration from this or how I've set up this and apply it to your own. And of course, like I said, during the time that I'll be using this camera, I may change a few of the shortcuts, but for now, that is kind of what I've set it up to be, and that is what I think will work really well for my sort of workflow in terms of using this camera. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate all the comments and the love on the videos. If you did find this video useful, don't forget to leave a like rating, subscribe if you are new. If you also want to go and check out Storyblocks, I've left it in the top link in the description. They have some amazing stock assets on there for you guys to use in your own project. So I really highly recommend you go and check out Storyblocks. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I shall see you all very soon in the next one. Take care. Peace. If I'm wrong, correct me down in the the comment section below. Also, hopefully by the next video, I'll have my leg out of my cast so I can actually start to walk again. Thank God.